All right, what's up, guys? So this is the, really the first, virtual call that we're doing, and like I was just saying, for those of you guys that are just now joining us, we wanted to put something together to teach people how to sell virtually, and we've got people that have been doing it for a while. In fact, what happened for me is I started the business and I was 100% direct mail, 100% in person, learning the business, learning how to be successful at this business in-person direct mail. And I think that is, quite frankly, I think that's the best way to start in this business. So if you're in a position, if you're new on here and you can get direct mail leads and you can go do that in person, I would just recommend like go learn the business, go learn how to do this thing in person, go make money, go get, the confidence that you get from running in-person appointments. I will tell you, people might paint this picture of virtual being this like glorious, glamorous, you know uh, thing, and there's two sides to every coin. Okay, so just so you're aware, if you haven't been selling virtually, there's two sides to every coin, and in person has its advantages and its disadvantages. Virtual has its advantages and disadvantages. So want you guys to be aware about, we're going to be pretty open about talking about all these different things, on these calls. We're not here to just paint the rosy picture, sit in your undies all day and sell insurance. Can you do that? Yeah. Is there, there's some positives, there's some negatives to doing that. And so, my story is I started in person, 100% direct mail, started building an agency. And what ended up happening for me is I got to the point where, I was running appointments and I run a full day's worth of appointments. And I would miss like 25 phone calls from agents, running those appointments. I'm like, okay, I got to figure out a way to do things virtually. And so I started to do that, and I've tried all sorts of different leads, and I've tried all sorts of different stuff. And I've pretty well been virtual since I was in person exclusively for a year and a half. And that's really where I learned the business. And I think, again, like I said, that's the best way to go learn the business. I believe is in person, toe to toe with people. You learn the products, you learn, how to talk to people about this stuff. You learn how to sell, and you learn how to pick up a check, because doing it over the phone is a little bit different. But that's what happened to me. And then I started, going virtually so I could have more time to, help the agents and just kind of sell, virtually when I did have some time. And through that process, have since, trained some other agents to be virtual, to sell virtually. And we've got people having, quite a bit of success, doing it. So that's what these calls are for, is to, hopefully share some of what we've learned. So that way, if you're in a position where you've already gone out there, you've done the direct mail, or, maybe you can't, for one reason or another, go sell direct mail and kind of go learn that way, then we want to be an agency where this business can be what you want it to be, whatever that happens to be. Okay. Virtual, in person, final expense, term, IULs, annuities, like whatever it is, you can grow this business to be, what you want it to be. And so, again, this is really the first one. And we want to give you on this first call, we're going to give you guys a little bit of just training, some basic virtual type training. And then we're going to hang out on here probably for a while, a little while at least, and answer questions, whatever questions you guys might have, what kind of leads are we buying, what works, what doesn't work, any of that kind of stuff. What's the lead spend? Is it different than in person? All those kinds of things. So whatever you guys want to know, definitely reach out and put something in that little chat box, or put something in the Q&A when we get to that part. So really to kick things off, I'm going to have David hop on here and do a little bit of training, give you guys some of what he's learned. And just I don't want to share his story, but really what happened with David is number one, just so you guys know, I mean, he was in our top 10 last year. He wasn't even in with us the entire year. Really started in, I don't know, February, March time frame. Made over $100,000 his first year, all selling virtually. And the reason, actually, what happened, and I don't think a lot of people know this, is he started with direct mail. Okay. And I even told him, like, hey, dude, I'm virtual. I'll teach you virtual. But I think it's the best to start with direct mail. And where he lives in Arizona, the direct mail, it was just, he lives in Maricopa County. Okay. And Maricopa County is this gigantic county, and it's split up in all these different things. But even though it's split up for the direct mail, it was split into different areas. still from one end of, Maricopa Southwest to the other side, or whatever part of Maricopa it was still like 30, 45 minutes plus with traffic. And just the way that the leads were out there, it didn't make that much sense. So we went out there, we ran some appointments, and had some conversations with people. But it really made sense. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to teach you virtual. And so we started teaching virtual, and I think even maybe even David's first week, started getting some traction with virtual, with some leads that were working at the time. And since then it's just been extremely coachable, extremely teachable, and he's also helped me be able to teach or get together my thoughts on virtual, and help organize these things in a lot of different ways. And so I wanted him to be on here just to tell you, teach you guys some stuff. We're going to do these every single week. That's the plan, at least. We'll do these virtual calls on Wednesdays. And but he's absolutely crushing it. Starting to build an agency. He's got people going in person, got people going virtually as well. And so we're going to go through a little bit of training, then we can hang out, answer your questions, and give it up for my man, Dr. David Helgeson.
Well, Nick, I'm so coachable in trying to model you. I even got my Legacy Life shirt on just for you, buddy. So
Let's go.
Appreciate that.
Let's go.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So yeah, I like a lot of what Nick said. I'll just kind of piggyback off a couple of those things. So I kind of knew in my head the whole time I wanted to do life insurance virtually. Obviously, we all start and we have no idea what we're doing, and I'm just so grateful for Nick and Mike and Dan and Rachel and David, just like all of you leaders that have just been not only insanely successful yourselves, but then continuing to help all of us learn how to do this. And this is just another tool in the tool bag, for Legacy Life, to kind of be able to just have another way to learn how to do it, continue to win, and just, let all of us help each other continue to be successful doing, this awesome business. So, happy to help share a little bit here. I've basically done 99% of my, short little life insurance career virtually. And Nick hit it on the head. I mean, there's days for some of you that hate, in-person stuff, and then there's days that you guys absolutely love it. Virtually is going to be the same. Like there's no secret, the same way as we're recruiting people. I'm starting to add on, starting to build an agency more now. Like I'm having to remember that too. Like there's no, this business isn't like insanely better than any other business people could go and do with their time. I mean, there are things that are, but at the end of the day, like this business takes work. There's going to be good days and bad days, good weeks and bad weeks. And it's just going to take a lot of consistency, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of continuing to personally develop ourselves, plug into, the team as a whole, and the systems that are, in place, and continuing to get, perfected, and just stay consistent in doing the work it actually is going to take. So none of that is any different in virtual. There is no magical thing that's going to make it better, but there are a lot of things that I do like a lot about it and stuff too. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter at home. My wife and I, in our previous businesses, always did everything together and working them. So I'm just used to being from home. I shared with some people on a call last week, I have a doctorate in chiropractic. I didn't practice as a chiropractor, or even still, as I made a career change into insurance, I didn't go into chiropractic, still never have actually, beyond getting the degree, which is kind of crazy after 8 years of school and everything else and all the student loans that took. But I didn't do that specifically because I fell in love with being able to do things virtually and working from home and working remote, and being able to build a team that, beyond where you physically have to brick and mortar be. And so obviously we can do all that with insurance. So, for those of you that were on that call last week, you kind of knew some of that. For those of you that, haven't ever heard anything, or maybe you're just looking into virtual and whatnot, again, there are definitely pros and cons. Hopefully this system that's kind of getting built out will continue to help people. I can't tell you how appreciative I am to Nick of just, the trial and error of, helping kind of get all of this stuff figured out. A couple things I'll just give you right off the bat, that if you want to make sales virtually, one, you absolutely have to figure out how to get organized, because this isn't as simple as like the system virtually is not as easy to clear cut follow sometimes as what doing in person is. So you're going to have to be more self-disciplined. You're going to have to be more organized. And you're just going to have to really do a good job of tracking and keeping things in order of what's going on. So depending on what kind of leads you're working and stuff, you're probably on average going to have to call more leads. It's going to be more chasing people around, because you're just a lot of times when you're doing virtual leads, you're not talking to the exact same clientele you would have that is final expense. Now, That's not always the case. I have bought an A1 leads and then sold them virtually. That, from what our old direct mail ones were. So it's possible, but generally speaking, virtual leads aren't going to be the exact same clientele. They might just be younger, or maybe a little healthier. There's usually other things, but that comes with things like a lot of them aren't retired, so they're busier, or they already have some sort of coverage, and now we're just showing them how we can save them some money or enhance their coverage. So it's a little more chasing around. So again, you got to stay organized. Of here's all the people that have never answered. Here's the ones that want nothing to do with me anymore. Here's the ones that I've had some productive conversations with, and now I need to continue to follow up with them and chase them around. So Nick taught me this very early on, that just stay professionally consistent, or professionally persistent with them, where you're not going to be rude to people, but just kind of assume the best in all of these people. So when you get blown off on following up with somebody, it's not that they necessarily are trying to give you the middle finger and want nothing to do with you. It's more they are just busy and life is happening. Like a lot of us are in our 20s, 30s, and 40s on this call. So just think about it. Like if somebody was calling you for something, like if you were going to switch your car insurance right now, does that feel like life and death to you? Like would you just drop everything, stop working, cut off your family time, and just focus to take care of that right now? I mean, maybe if you caught you in the exact right spot, but most likely you call me to switch my car insurance, even if you can get me something better. Like you're probably going to chase me around a little bit, and I'm not even necessarily trying to be mean about it, but that's just the reality. Like people are going to end up chasing me around trying to figure that out. So you just kind of put yourself in that shoes. Like you might be working and talking to people virtually that are a little more like you than like your grandma. So it just comes with something different. So just stay consistent and following up. And then really the number one thing that you have to get good at virtually, and it's probably the same direct mail too, but how you handle those first 30 seconds is everything, make or break. Depending on the lead type might change some of the things that you'll say in the first 30 seconds, but in general, they don't get to see you like when you're calling direct mail. I remember it was so hard because it's the opposite of my personality. I apologize, my voice might be a little hoarse. I feel like I've been sick the whole month of February here, but normally like I'm very energetic, or I'm upbeat, or I'm talking loud. And I remember trying to make those first direct mail calls of like I'm sitting in some call center making minimum wage from Maricopa County, trying to be bored to talk to you. Like that just felt so weird. But all you had to do was just somehow get to them. And now you get to them, you're face to face with them, and they get to see you. And most of us are normal people that, just aren't total goobers. So we just get along with people, and we, are able to make a friend in the home, and you make the sale, and all that's great. On virtual, remember, you're not going to get to do any of that in person. All you're going to be able to do is they're going to hear, your tonality and how you're speaking is really all that you get to communicate across. So just, be ready for that. And, if somebody answers the phone, so if I'm calling Nick and Nick answers the phone and goes, Paul, I'm going to try to match the tonality. That's like, Nick, hey, Nick, it's David. Give me, but if, Danielle picks up the phone and goes, hello, I'm not going to, Danielle, this is Dave. So they just try to match the tonality a little bit of where they're coming from the other end, and be concise and to the point. So have an idea of what you're going to say. Like have it mapped out of, this is what my first line should be. So for example, I've been working a lot of these ethos leads. So when Nick answers the phone, I'll do the best I can to match his tonality or his pace. Whether that's relatively fast or normal or slow. But I'm going to have a point of exactly what I'm getting to. Nick. Yeah. Hey, Nick, it's just David with Ethos. I was getting back to you about the life insurance application you started a couple weeks ago. I just want to see if there's anything I could possibly help with. Know what you're going to say. Have that line written down. Again, if we're working different leads, that maybe the first line changes a little bit, but have a plan. Don't just pick it up and be ready to, have no idea what you're saying. Same as what you would have been booking calls, through direct mail. So know what you're going to say, but you're always going to get an objection easier over the phone when you're trying to do these virtually, and you're going to have to build credibility a little bit quicker and stuff too. Because again, you're not going to get to be in the home and show them a picture of your kids or your dog, or talk about their kids and dog and everything else. So everything's just going to have to be a little bit quicker. You're just going to have to be ready and on your toes. So specifically, like with these ethos leads, and I shared with some people last week on a call about this, but just again, every lead's going to have its good and bad, just like doing virtual or in person is going to have its pros and cons. Specifically with these ethos ones, almost every person is going to tell you they're good, so you got to be ready for it, and really just kind of think through whatever kind of virtual lead you're working. Well, what are the most common objections I'm getting. Like, that was mastered with the direct mail. Like you knew if they told you, whatever it was, that you're just coming right back with the, hey, I just got to get it out, get the information to you, whatever you want, it's up to you, blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's why they got me coming out to, like, and you just always went back to that. So be ready the same way here. Like, for example, for those of you that have been trying those ethos leads, like they're going to hit you with, already got it taken care of. No, I'm not interested anymore. Or, those are the most common ones. You got to know that and immediately be ready to handle that objection in the first couple of seconds. So I'm hitting the Nick. Hey, Nick, it's just David with Ethos. I was getting back to you about that life insurance application you started a couple weeks ago. Just want to see if there's anything I can possibly help with. Oh, no, I'm good. Oh, no, I already took care of it. I'm not interested anymore. I'm ready for going. Oh, yeah, totally. That's why I was calling, Nick. So for whatever reason, online, it only shows you the one price, but we underwrite with 30 different carriers. So that's why I was calling. They just assigned me to double check everything and just, see if it was reasonable to go through all the options real quick one more time and, see if something was better priced for you. And more times than not, now all of a sudden their guard goes down, and from what they thought they weren't interested in, goes to, oh yeah, that'd be helpful. Or you just need to start poking around. I'm not interested. Oh yeah, that's no problem. So like, did you already have some life insurance? Were you kind of looking for the first time, or are you just kind of shopping around to see if you could, beat what you had? And then they start to share with you, and then you can say that. So you just, again, you have to be ready for what is going to be said, and then get into it. And then, so handling that first 30 seconds and actually giving yourself a fighting chance to help is going to be big. And then most of your clients already have some sort of coverage. So you have to be ready and knowing what you need to know. I get excited when people have coverage. I'd rather talk to the people that already have coverage than people that have never had life insurance before. Like, to me, they already value it. It's important to them. And most insurance agents are just not really good at their job. They care more about their commission than they do their clients. So they put them in something that is overpriced that paid them more, or they didn't know what they're doing. They put them in something that's screwed, it's screwed up and it's not set up the way that the client thought it was. And it's just our job to see if we can improve their situation. You're never going to take a person, from a policy that they have and put them in a worse policy. We always just put them in something better, which is one of my favorite things. Like, we really are helping people out here. And most of the time they're in something that isn't what they thought it was, or it's not what they should be in the first place. So be ready for that. So now, as soon as we get past that first 30 seconds, we need to know what they have. So does anybody know, like off the top of their head, I guess maybe this isn't as interactive as if everyone was on here could see. I can see everyone. I don't think you guys can see anyone other than Nick and I. But generally speaking, like, if you think through in your head right now, like, what do I need to know? Okay. First thing you need to know is, what company did they go with? That alone might help us with a whole bunch of stuff. If they rattle off that they got Colonial Penn, I immediately know, okay, there's a pretty good chance we can get them something better. So we need to know what it is that they have, the name of the company. We want to know how much the coverage is for. So, do they have a policy for $10,000, for $500,000? What is it for? We need to know how much they're paying a month. Most people get a couple of those. What you can't forget is you need to know, well, about how long ago did you get the policy? Because now you're moving away from final expense to a lot of term stuff. So it's not just as simple and cut and dry as, oh, you got this Forester's plan right 10 years ago. That probably is going to be hard to beat. And you just kind of like when you're in the home, you find something like that and you go, okay, shoot, yeah, you got the final expense 10 years ago. Probably going to be hard 10 years later to get you, something better, unless you were plenty healthy to get like an IUL or something. Over here, it's completely different, and it might sound really good. Yep, I got 500,000 a term, and it's for $54 a month. Well, then you uncover that they got it 16 years ago, and it's expiring in 4 years. So now we get to point that out. So you got to know how long ago they got it, and see. Sometimes they know, sometimes they have no idea. Now you got to find out when how much longer is it good for. So name of the company, how much they're paying a month, how much the coverage is for, about how long ago did they get it. And then if they're saying a number that's high, hundreds of thousands, that's almost always going to be a term. So then you can ask, well, do you know how long until the price goes up? You can even ask them that. And a lot of times, sometimes they know, and that's why they're shopping around. I know my coverage is expiring in 2 years. Or they'll go, it doesn't. Or they'll, people think they got whole life when they have term, and every other which way. But generally speaking, when it's term, you want to figure out, okay, well, how many years are left on it, or what is the price going to go up to? If you are suspecting they might have some sort of IUL, well, we want to try to figure out if they had a statement or anything. Do we know, again, when was it set up? Do we know on a statement how much cash value is in there, or even with these other whole life or final expense ones, those things are helpful to know. So a lot of times you're going to end up calling into the company with them to help them figure it out. So you're making a friend, you're trying to figure out everything that you can to the best of your ability of what they have for coverage. So then we can go around and show, how we might be able to beat it or replace it with something better that's in their best interest for a variety of reasons. And if you have to, it may be taking the extra step to call into the company. There's been a lot of sales I've made virtually just because I took the extra time where they got to see for themselves, oh my goodness, this isn't $500,000 for $50 a month, good whole life the rest of my life. It's not what I thought it was. And once they realize that, now you can be there to help kind of fix that too. So those would be the first couple things I would just think of make sure you know all the details. It's not good enough just to know, oh, they have a $50,000 policy and it's $50 a month. We need to know more details than that to the best of your ability. And they don't necessarily always know every detail, but try to gather as much as you can. And sometimes that's going to be enough. And if it's not, when we call them back that next day, we might just re-push, hey, let me help you really figure out what you have, just so there's no surprises. So a lot of it is just, you're going to run into people that already have coverage. You're going to run into people that, think, they're not interested anymore. You just got to fight through and let them know we can shop everything around for them. So that's kind of a quick nutshell on some of that, Nick. What else do you want to kind of go from here, man?
Yeah, I think, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Sweet. I think just overall, like what this call is not saying, hey, stop doing what you're already doing. Like there's pluses and minuses to everything, like I was saying at the beginning. And what David's talking about here is just like the first 30 seconds is extremely important. Like people decide whether they're going to talk to you or not talk to you based off of what happens in that first 30 seconds. And again, this is the first call that we're doing for training virtual, that kind of thing. So we wanted to just give you some nuts and bolts, but then also hang out and answer people's questions. And again, I want to be very clear. If you're having success working direct mail, or you're brand new and you're starting to work direct mail, and Mike is telling you that, or Dave, or whoever you're working with, Dan, Rachel, I don't want to leave everybody out, but you get what I'm saying. Like if they're saying, hey, you need to do this, like start buying these leads, start working these, whatever. This isn't meant to be a thing of like, oh yeah, stop doing that, and oh, come try this. I think sometimes people get that idea. So there's that. And then, just like David saying, like that first 30 seconds is extremely, it makes, that's where you lose them or you don't. That's it, and you'll realize that, for some of these lead types, like David's talking quite a bit about ethos. Well, with a lot of these ethos leads, and we can hang out and answer questions about, different leads and stuff like that. It's a pretty easy conversation if you get the first 30 seconds right. If you get the first seconds wrong, you don't ever get to have a conversation. You know what I mean? It just never gets to that point. But yeah, I think that's what I want to say. And I know a bunch of you guys got questions on here.
Yeah. So repeating, I see that from somebody had asked here. Can you repeat my reply if someone says they already have coverage? So it's, hey, Nick, David, blah blah blah. Just get back about the life, blah blah blah. And it goes, oh yeah, I'm good. We already got it all set up. I always just go back, and specifically with Ethos, because like they had filled out an application and then abandoned the cart on Ethos, that it was they were trying to get the life insurance. And now I know that's Ethos specific. So what I say back to them is, oh yeah, that's why I was calling. For whatever reason, online it only shows you one option, but we underwrite with 30 different companies. So would it be reasonable just to get you one more quote, just to make sure what you have is the best policy available? If you're doing it not on Ethos, you can say, calling out, getting back to you about your life insurance, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, we got that taken care of. Just, never argue with them, just agree with them. Like, oh, that's great. About how long ago did you get that taken care of? Oh yeah, we just got that last week. Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, Nick, while I have you on the phone, would it be reasonable just to get you one more quote real quick, just to make sure, that you do have the best policy available? So you can still say it like that. Or sometimes I'll even just throw out there like, oh, that's great. What company is it with? I'll know. We work with like 30 different companies. I'll know really quick if, we could possibly improve the situation. Like, you're just trying to make it sound like just very easy. Just give me one more answer. string them on a little longer, pull a little more info out until you see some sort of opening to be able to jump on. And again, all you're ever doing when they have the coverage is trying to create a little bit of doubt. Think if any of us got called about our car insurance. If somehow they got a doubt in my head that my State Farm policy, which keeps going up every 6 months, is complete trash compared to something else out there, and somebody could pique my interest that, oh, dude, you're State Farm. Is that what you're wanting? But like they create some sort of doubt of like, wait, I don't have as good of what I think it is. That's all you're trying to do is just create like I already have car insurance. It's not I'm not sitting here at the dealership needing to buy my insurance right now. And that's how a lot of these virtual people are. They think they're good. They got their work coverage. They already got coverage. They just set it up. Or what, they already went through the hassle. So you want to keep it as simple as possible to them, but create as much doubt in it as you can of, we got to make sure this isn't screwed.
100%. And keep the questions coming, y'all. We got a bunch of them on here. And let me just give you guys this too. I think I meant to earlier, but we're talking about selling virtually, and I mentioned, David's mentioned that there's pluses and minuses. And here's the thing. One of the pluses to virtual is like, okay, you can make lots of calls and all that kind of stuff. But one of the minuses, like, you're going to be following up with these people and you have to be organized. And I know David already touched on that. One of the other things that'll happen is you'll call someone, schedule an appointment with them, and they'll just straight up no-show you. Like, something you got to realize about virtual versus in person, it's hard for someone to no-show you when they're home and you show up to their house. Okay. But them not answering a phone call is super easy. They just hit the red button on their phone. You know what I mean? So number one, you can't take those things personally. Number two, like, that is going to happen a lot. It's going to happen all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you think you got a solid appointment with somebody and they just straight up bail on you. Okay. It's not gonna be like 50, it's gonna be like 40 to 50% of the time. That's what's going to happen. So, you need to be prepared for that. And you also need to not take that personally. But that is a downside to virtual for sure. The other thing that I want to make you guys aware of, like, we're talking specifically like right now, because a lot of us are working these ethos leads. We can talk about it if any of you guys have questions. Where do I get those? How does it work? Whatever. Do you have a script? Yes. We can get you guys info on all that. But the other thing that is a challenge with virtual is there is, and I'm not exaggerating, there is thousands of different lead sources that you could get, you could buy, you could try, you could waste money on. There's lots of different stuff, and some of them are really good, and some of them just flat out suck. They are terrible. Okay. And so, what I would recommend is, when it comes to, leads, talk with someone who's worked the leads. That's, what I mean? If you're thinking about a lead source, like, talk with someone who's working that lead source, and we'll put out different resources and things like that as time goes on, as we get everything built out. But we're not necessarily there yet. We haven't vetted all the lead sources, but there's that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, and David, sorry if I'm just taking over here, but people want to be virtual, but they want to make 20 dials a day and make a bunch of money. Like, I if you're taking notes at all, you need to write this down. Hard work is undefeated in this business. Okay. Hard work is undefeated in this business. Like, you are going to have to work just as hard virtual as you would in person. It's not a shortcut. It's not some other thing, where you just sit at home and write a policy every day or 3 policies every day without having to make the dials and do the work. Like, I've heard it said too on other virtual trainings, like, if you want to make, $5,000 a week, you need to make 1,000 dials a week if you're virtual. So think about that. If you're in person and you're not even making 100 and 200 or 300 dials in a week right now, and you're calling people to go meet with them in person, are you really going to make the 1,000 dials? You know what I mean? Are you really going to make 500 dials? Are you really going to do 100 dials a day or 200 dials a day if that's what it takes? You know what I mean? Maybe it takes more, maybe it takes less, but you're going to need to, make a ton of dials, and you're also going to need to buy more leads. Okay. You're going to have a little bit of a higher lead budget because these people are going to ghost you. There's going to be all sorts of different stuff going on. So, wanted to put that out there, and we can kind of hammer through a bunch of these questions here. But
yeah, well, and you kind of handled that one, Nick, here of like, so how many contacts do you need to make per sale, and will it decrease over time? Yes. So in generally speaking, you should still make 3 to 5 times your lead spend. So yeah, you're buying more leads. A lot of times these are cheaper leads than maybe like an an A1 or something like that. But yeah, you're gonna have to make more. And yes, it will get better over time. One, because you'll get better and not make some mistakes. Like I've made mistakes. I even just recently did this again a month ago. This person had this Primerica policy that was way overpriced, and then they liked the idea of having something permanent, but they still felt like they needed the $500,000 of coverage that they had. I make the mistake of muddying the waters and trying to somehow explain to them, over the phone. Because another question is asked, are we doing it virtual or over Zoom? I always just do it over the phone. It's never Zoom. Maybe an IUL illustration. That's a whole different conversation to have. But so you're doing all this over the phone. You got to keep it simple. So I'm sitting over here like an idiot trying to explain to them, oh my gosh, this Primerica policy sucks. And here's what we'll do. Let's get you this IULE of this much coverage. And then we're going to get you this Transamerica term of this much coverage. And we're going to mesh these two together, depending what qualification you get from Transamerica, whether it's preferred or preferred plus. And then you'll have this much of this and this much of this. And is it any surprise to any of you? That's about how dumb I sounded. Is it any surprise to you that they've ghosted me and I've still not closed the sale, even after trying to back off of that and go, okay, David, why are you being so cuckoo? Let's just go get them a better term, and then we'll pitch them. We can just convert some of it to permanent when they're ready to drop the coverage more. But let's just instantly start saving you $100 a month because you're not in an overpriced Primerica policy. If I would have done that, I would have had the sale a month ago. So yes, you'll screw things up like that. Like I continue to screw things up. So you'll naturally just get better, and you keep following up with people over, and you don't forget about them and get back to them. Eventually, you do repick them back up weeks or months later on some of them too. So yes, on that virtual, we're basically just doing it, over the phone. A lot of times, Nick, 2-call close, not trying to rush it all in one. You want to hop through any of these too?
Yeah. So let's see, doing it over. So yeah, we pretty much do most of this just completely over the phone. There are some situations like David touched on where you got to get on Zoom. Okay. Like, you just have to, like, if it's, annuity conversation. I know Tom Payne is, sold virtual leads. Like he has one gal that back in January, totally virtual we helped her with an annuity, but we had to hop on Zoom. Or like if it's an IUL, you got to get on Zoom, talk about these things. Especially where people are paying pretty big premiums. But for the rest of it, it's for the most part, over the phone. And we've got really like a 2-call close, which again, we'll get into some more specifics as we go. We've got a training course for virtual, and it's right now it's fairly elementary. We're kind of building it out and getting this platform for being able to train lots of people how to sell virtually if that's the route that they want to go. But if you want to get access to that, then you guys can hit us up or hit up somebody, but really get in contact with Benet. Benet can get you access to the virtual training course. And again, I would be careful if you're in a position where someone's already saying, hey, go get direct mail and go do that, start there, go learn this business. You know what I mean? Go toe to toe with people and go learn the business. But if you're in a position where it's like, hey, I'm going to be going virtual, this is what I'm going to do, whatever, then, hit up Benet, she can get you in there. The next question on here is is there a script that we use? There is a script that we use. The scripts are different for the most part, depending on the type of lead. Okay. Cause some, like we keep talking about ethos leads. Well, these are people that already went to go fill out an application and they abandoned that. They bounced on that application. They abandoned it. So they searched for life insurance. They started an actual life insurance application with a company that's online. Okay. And then they got through it. They didn't like the price. They didn't like the questions. They didn't like something. They got busy, who knows? And then they left. Okay. Those are the people. So obviously that's a different conversation than someone who filled out a form on Facebook and they're just, kind of curious trying to get a quote. Right? Like it's a different script, a different conversation that you want to have with somebody, based on that. So for you, Samsung SM, whatever your name is on there about the script, reach out. It kind of depends on the type of lead that you're buying. Andre's got a question here. What's your process when you're trying to call the company to verify their coverage with them on the phone? It's a little bit different from getting the policy in the home. Let me tell you this, and I love that question, Andre, because it is different. And here's the other reason I love that question is you've already done this. Like you've already done it. You've sat down with people in their house, so you kind of know the process. So for verifying, did you already cover that? Sorry, dude.
No, you're good.
Okay. So I had a client, I don't remember, 3 months ago, something like that. Girl had like, I say girl, she was like 60 something, but she had like 4 or 5 different policies. And so all I did is, I'm having the conversation with her. Hey, you reached out about life insurance. Yeah. What's going on? What are you trying to get? And she's like, well, I've already got these policies. Okay. So I'm like, all right, well, spill the beans, girl. Like, what do you got? Yeah, I got Mutual Omaha. I got Foresters. I got this one. I got that one. I'm like, okay, what do you have? What are you paying? What do you have? What are you paying? What do you have? What are you paying? So I'm getting all the policy details, and then I hung out with her on the phone, and we called. Actually, let me rephrase that. Here's what happened. She had to get going, so I got all these policies. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, I really just want 100,000. Okay, um, so here's what we're going to do. Her name is Veronica. Like, Veronica, here's what we're going to do is I'm going to call you. We got to call when these companies are open. When do you have, some time that me and you can go call these companies together and get all of the details and make sure that what you have is set up right? Because same thing that you would say in person, Andre, right? You might not even need extra coverage if this is all set up the way it's supposed to be set up. Right. And she had a lot of universal policies. So, I scheduled the time with her. We called together, got all the information just like you would in the home, Andre. And turns out a bunch of those policies were not set up correctly. I'm like, hey, you're going to get some, let's do this. Let's get you the cash back out of those. And, ended up being a replacement just like that. Um, Luis has a question. How do you respond when they tell you they don't remember filling it out or that they didn't fill anything out? Some of the leads are going to say that. But when it comes to virtual, and you'll see this as you go through the course, one of the parts on there is talking about the leads and that kind of thing. Speed to lead with virtual matters. It matters, especially with certain lead types. So, Ethos, maybe it matters a little bit less because that person started filling out an application. But, for a lot of other internet leads that are out there, you got to get in touch with that person right away. Okay. Like you have to, because otherwise, if someone fills out a form on Facebook for final expense life insurance and they filled it out on Facebook, I promise you, they are getting marketed to after they filled out your form. You might even be the third form that they filled out. Okay. Like, they are getting marketed to like crazy. So you need to get to them quick while they still remember it, because it was online. And some of these lead vendors out there, like, the person doesn't even actually type anything on their computer. They just get an autofill, like, just automatically fills out with like their information on Facebook. So they really don't remember filling it out. So speed to lead matters. Again, it's a little bit different, online versus versus in person. Let's see here. Maddie's got one. For someone part-time, how much would you allocate time with regular in-person leads if you were to recommend? Here's going to be the biggest difference is in person. It's going to be you're going to have, you got to make all these dials and to go get in front of people. But then once you get in front of people, it's like, button it up. Let's get you coverage. Hey, really great to meet you. There's tons of rapport built. You're not chasing that person around a whole bunch. Like, it's kind of one and done. Whereas with virtual, it's not necessarily one and done. Like, you might have a conversation with them. Oh, hey, David, my wife's calling me, whatever. Give me the information tomorrow, call me tomorrow, whatever. And then they get off the phone with you. So it's a lot more follow-up, Maddie. And I would say if you can get good direct mail leads in person and you're already used to going in person, that kind of thing, I would, stick to that if you can make it work. Online is just, it's going to be more back end work, not so one and done as far as the leads go. All right. This is a good one for you, David. Earl says, how do you follow up with your no-shows?
Yeah, Earl, I think maybe even next week we can do an entire call on that, because we could do a whole bunch of the system of, like, again, first you got to have a bunch of first 30-second conversations, and then you get, like Nick was saying, you're going to fall into that follow-up process a lot more. So there's things you can do in between to make sure to help lessen the no-show. Like, let's say now they have no-showed you, it's just being politely persistent. So, it's shooting you I might call you or double dial you at most, and then I'll shoot you a text of, hey, Errol, sorry I missed you yesterday. Is there a better time to connect today? Then I call you the next day, hey, Errol, just had a second to, get back to you between appointments. What's your schedule look like today? Just trying to stay persistent in front of them. They blow you off over and over and over. You can hit them with, hey, Errol, tried to reach you a few times last week and didn't hear back, ... drop a couple spaces, so space. Where would you like to go from here? Question mark. So you're trying to leave it kind of open ended. You're kind of detached, but you're just persistently staying on them. And then Andre was asking too the difference between like a 2-call and a 1-call close, Nick. Generally speaking, Andre, the 2-call has been better just because it helps you build the rapport more. And a 2-call could even be like, let me, hey, I got like a line I'll use, because again, you want to act like you're busy. You weren't just sitting around and they're the only person you're possibly talking to. So I don't just have all day to hang out. It's like, hey, you landed on my desk. I was supposed to give you a call. Let me see real quick if I can help you. All right. I got, one thing is like, I have 30 companies to work with. Let me go, really do some due diligence with you. Like, people like to feel like you're sitting there in the library for 2 hours scrolling through all the underwriting stuff and truly finding them the very best deal. They don't want to know that the answer 2 seconds later. So part of it's that of like, they want to actually feel like, dude, I'm going to go to work for you. Let me go shop this around. Like, I got no clue what you can get, but I'm going to go to work for you. Even just throwing, hey, I got another couple clients I got to call here. I could possibly give you a call back here at about 3 o'clock. Otherwise, we're looking into tomorrow. What works better for you? So like, you could even do the same day doing it, but just buying that extra time where they feel like you're really shopping it, and then they don't feel like you're getting sold so hard on the phone. Like when you're doing a 2-call close, if they're sitting there going like, I don't want to be sold anything, he's like, hey, I'm not even selling anything right now. I'm just here to see if I can possibly help you. You get to kind of play that part off and like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to help you yet. Like, let me, we got to go through a little bit more info and whatnot. So all of that, and then you get to send them like your license number, your business card, and all this kind of stuff. So now they, just like when you're in person, they can see you're a real person. Now they don't feel like you're just this scammer from, some random country trying to get all their info right away. So the 2-call helps where they don't then, give you a bucky on giving you their social, giving you their bank account info, canceling the policy. I have very little of any of that stuff with the 2-call, but I have done the 1-call sometimes too. Like when it's really cut and dry, and it's like, hey man, you're 34 years old. I'm 34 years old. You have no medications. I have no medications. Here's the policy I got for my wife, and I like, it's going to be the best thing out there for you. Like, just hands down, since you're healthy, this and that, it's this for this. How's that sound? Cool. Let's get you going. Like, I've done that before too.
Yep. And I would put it this way. I would think of it like this. Sometimes they don't want to like to kiss on the first date. You know what I mean? So that's another reason to kind of split it up into two. Like, you kind of have one that's a fact-finding call, and hey, let's find out exactly what the problem is. And then call 2 is kind of solution and putting in the application. Okay. But lots of times they if you try to 1-call, you can 1-call close. There's lots of people out there that do it. I've done it. It's just you'll notice sometimes, especially if you're not really good, that the tone of the conversation will change as soon as you start asking for bank account. Like, they just feel like they don't know you, and they don't want to kiss on the first date. Like, they want to, for whatever reason. That's just how it is. Not to say that it can't be done. Of course, it can be done. But you just need to be skilled for sure. Next one, anonymous attendee says, how are you closing the second call? Like, and I hope I understand the question right, but like, how are you scheduling the second call? I hope is what you're asking, or I think is what you're asking. Let us know.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, if they're trying to close the second call, again, you're getting back on, you're going through, hey, here's the options I found. You review the why with them. All this is in the training course too that that Nick has put together. And then you're going into giving the options, not making it overcomplicated, and then go proceeding with they hear one that fits the budget, and you let them know, hey, yeah, so if it's appropriate, our next steps to put in an application with the insurance company, and you always leave it vague of hey, this isn't something you can just buy. Like, we have to get you qualified. So now it's, hey, we found something, you like it, it's helping fit the why, it fits the budget. Let's see if we can get you qualified. And don't make it just sound like, yeah, so this is it, and this is what you'll get. It's like, yeah, okay, I think we got a really good shot in. If we can get you qualified, anonymous attendee, that like, this is just like hands down the best thing out there. So, it's worth us giving it a shot. I don't know for sure if you're going to get qualified, kind of with everything going on, but if we can get it, hands down the best thing. So that, if it's helpful, let's put an application in and see if we can get you qualified.
Yep. Okay. Plus, are you using Calendly or anything to help with scheduling appointments? I'm personally not yet. I don't think it's a bad idea. You can get some of those things, set up on the back end. But most of it is, instead of saying, hey, go to this website, if I have this initial phone call with you, if I'm using a Calendly, to book, it's like, I'm just scheduling you right then and there. You know what I mean? There might be some other lead types and some other systems, out there that maybe we'll kind of get to in the future where, it'll make sense. People can just book themselves on your calendar, but we're not necessarily there yet. And it's not necessarily for someone buying leads, calling leads, selling the leads, you know, um, you're calling them. So just schedule with them while you're on the phone. Aaron asks, how are you getting to investment money over the phone where we have the green sheet when in the home? So what I have done is like lots of times, and part of the process too is, asking some of the right questions and like, hey, let's help them take care of the life insurance, but also asking some of the right questions where it's like, hey, what do you have set up? And, if there was no life insurance, like, do you have retirement accounts that could help cover, some of the, some of this, or like, what do you have? You throw it, oh yeah, I got a 401k at my old job. Okay. It's just sitting there. Okay, cool. You don't jump on it right then and there, but now you have this information. So you help them with the life insurance and you can come back and just say, hey, I know we didn't really talk about this, but you mentioned that you've got that 401k. We've been having a lot of clients recently, want to protect that money just with everything going on in the world, Russia, Ukraine, interest rates are super high. People are worried about the stock market. So we're able to help a lot of people. I don't know if we could help you, but if you're open to having a conversation about it, I can connect you with Chris Norris. I can connect you with Michael. I can connect you with whomever, and you just kind of throw it out there. And it's not as easy as in person. You know what I mean? In person, you sit down with them and, they tell you they've got retirement accounts, whatever, but you at least bring it up and throw it out there. You have nothing to lose, but I would focus on the life insurance first. And I would get good at selling the life insurance virtually before you start trying to have conversations with everybody and, everybody about their retirement accounts. What do you want to add to that, David?
No, I think that's perfect. Like you said, it's just you come back, and then once they're a client, you can come back and do a better job. It's not maybe as feeling as having to pounce on it in the home as maybe like the green sheet felt. I think is kind of what that was. And then yeah, so another person's asking, how much are you still building the why? Because obviously the why is really important. The ethos lead specifically, you can get away with doing a little less of that, but you still definitely want to know what the why is, what the purpose is, because you might pivot. Like, they might have been suggested getting a term, and it's like, now the sale's made on, let's go get you an IUL instead, or vice versa. So you still want to know the why, but it might not be as like insanely important to get every detail with those ethos one specific. But certainly every one you miss, if you look back on, it's going to be because we feel like we didn't do the why enough. So it never is a bad idea to stay on the why hard. And yes, Megan, you can text the virtual leads a lot easier, especially in follow up, than you can the direct mail ones.
Yep. And I'll add this to just building the why. David already said it, but it's if you miss sales, virtually and in person. I mean, the truth of it is you probably didn't build enough why. Like you're trying to diagnose a problem that you don't know what the problem is. Okay. It'd be like a doctor just giving you medicine without knowing a diagnosis. Okay. Well, in medicine, we call that malpractice. And in life insurance, we call it you miss all the dang sales. You know what I mean? Because you gotta it's just it is that important. And there are, like the ethos leads, they have enough internal why maybe that they have started to fill something out, and you'll notice a lot of those conversations being a little bit more logical. But as much as you can, I'll ask people like, hey, so what's got you motivated in searching for life insurance in the first place? Like I'm not saying, hey, what happens if you die? Like, but like, hey, what's got you motivated? Oh, well, I want to make sure that my wife and my kids are taken care of. And okay, and you can still like you can get to it the same way, and you ought to. You know what I mean? You ought to, dig into it. And some of them will just outright open up. Well, my cousin Jerry passed away, and he didn't have anything, so I know this is important. I just haven't had the chance to set it up, that kind of thing. Well, don't just park there and oh, great, cool, yeah. Well, don't be like Jerry. Let's get you something set up. It's like spend a little bit of time. Like, oh my gosh, like yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. Was that pretty tough on his family? Yeah, it was really tough on everybody. Yeah. Okay, so you want to set things up so your family doesn't have to go through the same thing. Yeah, gotcha. And if something were to happen right now, would it be pretty rough on them like it was for Jerry's family? Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I don't have anything. But gotcha. Okay, so who are we looking to set this up for? You know, is it your spouse? Is it the kids? Oh, it's the kids. Okay, like it's you as much as you can. You want to spend time at building the why over the phone with people because it's just going to lock them in. And then when you come back to it later on, when you come back to it on the second call, you know what I mean? Like the way that I think we ought to all do the second call is, you know, I set up an appointment with David. Hey, I'm gonna go shop this for you, find you the best stuff. I call David back. He answers. I'm gonna say, David, yeah, hey David, it's Nick with Legacy Life. You know, it's now still a good time for us to talk. Yeah, cool. Well, here's how I start every second call. I say, great news. Great news. Was able to find some really good options for you. Just want to make sure that we're setting this up. You wanted to set this up so, you know, Crystal and your daughter Navy, you know, they don't have a big burden should something happen to you. I'm going to go touch back on the why. Like, hey, great news, found some really good stuff. But before we get to that, let me just remind you why we're having this conversation in the first place. Okay. There's Navy there. Look at those blues. Hi, Navy. Cutest, just the cutest. So you want to touch back on the why for sure, and build the why as good as you can. David, you want to take the next one here from Gabriele?
Yeah. So Gabriella, I personally I only double dial the leads, and then I do it once, maybe two different times during the day. So yeah, I personally, I guess, could you probably get away with it? Maybe, yeah, of like morning, afternoon, and night. I personally call them once a day, usually like twice. So again, you have more leads, so you can get away with that. But I don't think there's anything wrong doing it even twice a day. Nick, if you think three times a day is maybe okay, but yeah, I normally will double dial them. And then, yeah, I mean, eventually when they do answer, you know, at least with the double dial, so you can go, you can kind of play it off like, oh, I didn't know if it rang the first time. But usually the same way when you're triple dialing the in-home people, like most of the people don't say anything. Like you just act like it's normal and you just keep right on rocking along.
Yeah, and what'll end up happening too, Gabriella, is you'll get, you know, as time goes on, you just get more and more leads, and it becomes more and more difficult. Like if right now you've got 50 leads, like okay, you could knock out 100 dials in a dial session, right? Call them all twice, make it through all of them. And you could do that, you know, morning, afternoon, evening. But when you have 100 leads or 200 leads that you could call through, like lots of times what'll end up happening is you just end up not making you end up not calling them in every single dial session, right? You just end up having more leads. So you're not able to do that. At the very beginning, I remember for myself personally, at the very beginning, it's like I've got X amount of leads. I'm just going to dial these people like crazy. And but as time goes on, you have more leads. So you end up dialing them each one of them, you know, less. You double dial them if they don't answer. Maybe you don't get back to them for another day or two just because you're busy, right? And you've got all these other people to get back to and other appointments, etc. Luis on here says, once they have agreed to see if they can qualify, fill out an application. How do you transition to actually actually start asking for personal information in order to fill out the application since they're not in person with you and they can't fill it out themselves?
Yeah, Louis. So what you've been doing, let's say you know you're going to be writing them a Mutual of Omaha IULE. You're pulling up the application, and maybe in home you're always just like, you pulled all that up and then you just hand it over to them and they start typing. Maybe that's how you're doing it in home. You're just pulling it up as you've been going through. So okay, yeah, so 100, 50,000 of coverage is going to be $100 a month. Is that in the budget? It sounds good, perfect. Well, again, our next step, if it's appropriate, Luis, we're just gonna put an application in, see if we can get you qualified with it and everything. I don't know for sure. We still got to get through their underwriting, but based on everything I'm saying, like I think we have a really good chance. And if we can, again, it really is just the best thing out there. All right, that sounds good. Oh yeah, so this. And I was under kind of go, yeah, it'll take, I don't know, about 5-10 minutes or so to get you through. And then I've already had some of the stuff, and now I'm just starting to ask them, going, okay, so your birth date again was what? And I just start rolling through the application as I'm virtually saying it. You can leave the social until like the last thing on one of the first pages, just kind of get some others. Oh, so were you born in Arizona? Okay, great. And your address was still the 123 Main Street. Okay, your cell phones 701-721-294. Like I'm just kind of saying some of this, and they can tell I'm filling something out at that point.
Yeah, 100%. That and you just have to, like, it is just a matter of course. Like we're an insurance agent. We write applications, right? Mm-hmm. So you just be professional with them, and hey, I'll even tell people what's happening on my screen. Like, oh, I'm just pulling this up, and hold on, it's doing the little spinny thing. Give me just bear with me a second here. Okay, what's your middle initial? Oh, it's J. Perfect, got it. And then just confirming here, Susan, your last name is Smith, Smith. Like, and I even sometimes I'll even type really loud so they can tell I'm just sitting there typing. You know what I mean? They can
Yeah.
hear that I'm putting it through there.
Or the only thing I can think to add on that too, because I do think this is helpful, like just throw in some sort of humor, maybe right at the beginning and then right at the end. So like I might say like, all right, listen, I'm not going to kid you. This is going to be the most boring 10 minutes of your day, but I'll do the best to get you through it as fast as I can. Okay. And then at the end, I always say something stupid, like, as we're finishing up, like, all right, we're on the home stretch. You're going to have to go celebrate with some ice cream, after all this boring life insurance talk. Just like, just throw something in there and be a normal person.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good. All right, next one here. What are the best kinds of leads we agents can buy where the clients are more easy to be sold? Example from 1 to 10, are ethos leads considered, a 10 on the, a hard, like 10 being hard, 1 being easy? Would you say that there's a 10 or a 1 to close? Like, what are the different types of leads? What do you got to say to that?
I think ethos are the easiest to answer that we've found virtually. All of these are just going to take skill set and repetition and figure out. Like there are leads you can get virtually that they haven't had life insurance for and they don't really know what's going on. I would say the ethos leads are a little more educated on what's out there. So like for those of you that if you haven't sold like a lot of term, like Foresters, Moose, CFG, those pay us the best, but they're the most expensive term. So like if you talk to someone that's never had life insurance before and I'm talking and they're perfectly healthy. Let's say they're 50 years old, a 50-year-old female with no medications, perfect height, weight, non-tobacco user. So the easiest thing to do would be to put them with CFG, Move, Foresters. That's going to be the most expensive for them. So a client that maybe has never had, and I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong, never go do that specifically, but a client that's never had life insurance before, that like they don't know whether it costs $5 or $500 a month for whatever coverage. These ethos leads, they've shopped it around, or they might be someone that's 30 years old and they already understand that there is companies like North American or Transamerica or Banner or these other things out there that are definitely cheaper than some of these other non-med ones. So you just I think that you get the most opportunities to make sales and everything else, but you just have to understand that there's pros and cons to these leads like anything. So ethos is going to answer, but they a lot of times they understand life insurance a little bit more, or they're going to be more apt to shopping it around more. Whereas again, maybe like a direct mail person, they may have no idea what's going on, and they're not going to reshop it around real hard or something too. So like there's pros and cons to all these things, but overall ethos I think is a perfect place to cut your teeth virtually because you're just going to get the most opportunities. Plus for the aged ones are $8. Like I don't know where you could possibly buy another $8 lead that actually answers, remembers what you're talking about. You have a shot.
For sure. And I would say, to that, like I've worked lots of different, online leads because, like I said, I was, in person, and it's not like someone sat me down and, had some sort of a training. I'm just like, gosh, what are other people doing? You know what I mean? So I ask around, okay, find some lead sources, talk to this lead guy, start buying those leads, and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty good. There really wasn't much of a script. There, it's just calling these people, and I would say, just like David said, there's going to be pluses and minuses with every different lead type. And with ethos, you're going to get a lot of people to answer typically. And then there's going to be the little bit more work on the follow-up side on your end. And, Gabrielle, just because you and I, like we're working together, making some of these calls, it's like, you're going to get we're going to get a lot of opportunities with ethos. And like David said, cut your teeth, be able to see, different underwriting scenarios, and, just have a lot of at bats, where you're on, you'll have a lot of swings of the bat with them. Whereas there's other leads where, maybe they're a little easier. There's less follow-up necessary, but you're just going to get less opportunities because less of them are going to answer. So ethos is really good for that, and just having conversations, getting used, comfortable on the phone, that kind of thing. And it's so right now, just so you guys know, it's 12 o'clock noon. I don't want to keep everybody on here for super long. We can go for maybe David, you good for another maybe 5 minutes on here?
Yeah, and we'll probably keep these. I know from what Nick and I were talking, like to like a half hour in the future and stuff too. So just so you guys know, you won't have to cut out your whole day or anything. But hopefully this has been helpful today.
Yep. All right. So Kyle says, when scheduling the second call, how much time are you giving yourself to make sure you get through the call app before your next scheduled call? On call two, I usually give myself, and tell me if you do different, David, probably 30 to 40 minutes, get through the app. Maybe they've got extra questions, that kind of stuff. But I'd say 30, 40 minutes for
And
call two.
same thing as in home, Kyle. Like people are you're gonna schedule out an hour, in between your or 90 minutes between your next all of your in person meetings. Then you show up and the guy's not home, and now you got 90 minutes free. Same thing, even more is going to happen here. So it's like, yeah, you schedule half hour apart. Worst case scenario, you're running late. And you tell the person the next one when you're actually making a sale, but half of them aren't gonna answer that time anyway. So you're not going to need some huge block of time off it. And then it's just easier because there's no drive time or anything else. You just jump to following up with the next person.
Yep. All right, next one. Samsung. Is there a time of day you find calling works best with these leads, especially since you said some of these are younger people and maybe working? So, again, there's different lead types, right? And some of them you're going to get younger people. In fact, these are the youngest leads, the ethos leads specifically. And we're talking a lot about that because that's a lot of what we're actively working right now. Okay, if you would have talked to us 6 months ago, we were actively working different leads. Okay. So with these ethos leads in particular, they're the youngest ones I've ever come across. Like if I look at my average age, it's like under 50. So to answer your question, like, is there a better time? Yeah, later in the day. You know what I mean? As much as you can, and maybe that doesn't work for everybody's schedule. But if they're younger, they're probably working. What time do you normally start making your dials, David?
Yeah, I'm a little unconventional with that. Make it fit what works for you. Like you call these people. Who cares if they answer from work? They answer. They tell you they're busy. They don't have time to talk right now, and you hit them with, "Hey, no problem. You just have a quick minute, just to see if it even makes sense to give you a call back after work tonight." All right, what do you need to know? Then you get through it real quick, finding out what coverage they had, a little bit of their why, what they want. You tell them you're going to go shopping around for them, and now you call them back after work, and you can actually be putting the app in and just retouch on the why harder then. So make it work for whatever makes sense to you. You can get people to pick up all times a day. So
Love that. All right.
and
Are you
Nick,
sending
all right,
quotes
the
through
last question
email?
was, are you sending quotes through email? Do not send quotes through email. Do the absolute best you possibly can. And if they're saying that to you in the beginning, Miranda, like, can you just email me some quote, or hey, I just want to know the price. Or, hey, I just wanted a quote email me send, or just agree with them on any of these objections. Like, yeah, of course you just want a quote. Yeah, absolutely, that totally makes sense. And then if it's in the very beginning, like those first 30 seconds, you can hit with like, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's like, I don't know, 10 different kinds of life insurance out there. Like without kind of knowing like what you're looking for specifically and kind of what the purpose is, like Miranda, I wouldn't even have any idea where to begin. Does that make sense? So it's like you're kind of taking the control back of like, now this isn't just some like, robotic thing that I just, type this in and set off. Like, I got to figure out what it is we're looking and what type of insurance is going to work for you. So kind of bringing the human element back. And then if you're going through and then they're trying to tell you, to email, maybe like after like you got done there and like you're trying to set the next appointment. Usually that doesn't happen. They'll tell you how serious they really are usually, but just to the best of your ability, like just kind of blow off the email and get the time set of like, oh yeah, I can certainly. In fact, Nick taught me this. If you absolutely got to send an email, it's like, oh yeah, no problem. So I can send you an email stuff and still set the time you're going to talk to them. So they want it sent in an email and you're going to talk to them at noon tomorrow. We'll send them the email at 11:59 and then call them at 12, or call them at 12 and then send the email. All right, I just sent you the email. Pull it up. We'll go through that together. You're trying to get it where you get to talk to them and explain what's going on, and then try to move for the close from there.
Yeah, that's great. And I always feel like this, like, have I sent quotes over email? Yeah. Do I like doing? I hate doing that because then I'm giving them all the power and whatever. But you're gonna have some of these people that are like, "Oh, I'm so busy, just email me some stuff." Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll send you an email. When works for us to, go over it together. And I even had a guy, I think it was 2 days ago, making dials, and the guy's like, "Oh, just send me an email. I just want to do everything through email. I don't even want to, and it's like, every time I send a stupid quote email, I just feel like, okay, that this sucks. I don't want, like, I just, every time it's like a trigger in my mind of like, I don't like doing this because it's just I'm not doing my
Maybe
job
this is a good way to end this, Nick. Is generally speaking with virtual, you want to create the curiosity that what do they have? This somehow is going to be better. Hey, I'm gonna, so if they blow you off and you never get to tell them the prices. Hey, I found some great options. I think I found some really great options for, when's a good time. But like the more you can hold on to what you have, just gets them to have to come back to you of what and have them curious. If you just tell them everything, now there's like I want them curious of like, dude, how good of a thing did he find? Like, what is it? And like they need to get on with me to hear about it, or I'll just hold on to it now and keep following up of like, hey, still had those good options to go through, blah 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 blah. But just again, you're trying to create some sort of curiosity of, is the coverage I have, does it suck? Like we were talking about at the beginning of the call, or is there some really bad thing with the coverage I have? Oh my gosh, I need to double check that. Or it's, oh my gosh, they must have found something really good for me. I got to hear them out on what it is. I'm curious. Like curiosity is everything with this. And Mike wants to know how you have such good hair, Nick. You want to touch on that as we end?
I don't know if it's good. I feel like I'm losing some. Well, and here's what I'll tell you guys. A couple of things. If you're on here and this is like, okay, I think you're in a position where it's like, okay, I'm going to start selling virtually. For whatever reason, you can't go in person, or you're too busy, or just whatever. Like, hey, it just makes sense for where I'm at with the leads and the lead costs. Like that's a real thing. If you haven't gone through the course yet, hit up Benet and go through the course. Okay, like I know maybe you're like, oh, this is so exciting. Let me start doing this. Let me just go buy some ethos leads and start calling people. Like, yeah, you could do that. I would encourage you, like, go through the course. Okay, Benet can get you invited. Benet at legacylife.co. That is her email address. Hit up Benet. Get onto that virtual course, and it's fairly short. You know what I mean? And again, like I said, it's a little elementary where it's at right now. We're going to keep building on it, do more of these calls, all that kind of stuff. But get on the course and go through that because that'll give you some more information there. The other thing that I would say is the plan is to start doing these every Wednesday, and also to have them be a little bit more succinct. This is kind of the first one, so we're going through all kinds of stuff, answer questions, all that. But we want to have more like training type calls as well, and maybe we could do Q&A on all of them. But what do you guys want? What topic do you guys think is, for those, like some of you guys have been, calling virtually, what do you guys want the calls, like what are the topics that you guys want on the calls? Could you write down on the chat the email? Yeah, that's a great idea. But yeah, let us know like what topics you want, like lead types, the intro to the call 1, call 2. It'll help also if you guys go through the course, because you'll get a bunch of training, so we're not kind of teaching some of the same stuff. Yeah, no emails.
I'll throw this out there too, whether that's in the next couple weeks. If some of you are down for it, I think it'd be really helpful if we we kind of bring on everyone and go through the first 30 seconds. So like if we I mean there was 30 some people on through over an hour of this call. Hopefully this is helpful and everything. I would even suggest we take one of these weeks and we take all of us that would be open to participating, and let's just go through and show what do some role playing through. When I first joined, Mike, I remember you doing a call that I listened to, and you just were rifling through with some people doing that, and that was so helpful to me. And I think again the repetition and hearing it, and some of you might feel like you suck. I would really encourage you, like, please do that too, because like I remember hearing one of these calls from a different agency that does everything virtually, and I listened to that and I went, wow, like, okay, when you hear it, like, one, you try to do it yourself and you're going to realize like, okay, here's where I need to improve it. But like when you just listen to everybody else doing it, you'll hear, wow, Nick really sounds smooth. He knows what he's talking about. Wow, David sucked. He doesn't have a clue. He's not following the script, and it's obvious. And it just like the good and the bad, I think, is really helpful too. So if some of you guys are down, I think that'd be a good topic, Nick, in one of these weeks ahead.
Yeah, 100%. I like that. And we've got lead types, objections. Mike's asking if you can record your live dials. Gabriella says a tutorial on how to fill out an application. I think that's a good one. Aaron says role play objections. Would it be possible to hear you do a call live or listen to you do the dials and making sales? Again, yeah, we can do a lot of this stuff, and I like all those ideas. I think maybe what we'll do next week, I don't know, we'll figure it out. If you guys have some more, suggestions on like topics specifically, lead types, objections, or maybe next week we just do the first, 30 seconds, and we can set it up where, it's not just me and David as panelists, but everybody, we could see everybody, and we can go through, hey, make sure you've gone through the course, you've got the script, and like, let's talk about that first 30 seconds, because that in a lot of ways is make or break, and we can just role play with everybody. Maybe we could do that next week. Or were you thinking, David, you'd want to do that as a separate, different
Like all
call?
that.
All right.
Eventually, maybe we'll start breaking some of these down, and we'll just set through where several of us are panelists, and we'll do our dials at the same time, and then can just unmute when one of us answers. That would probably be helpful for a time too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. Cool. All right, y'all. Well, last question. If they call back and you're making dials, someone calls you back and you can't answer the call, is it okay to text them, say who we are, and call back later? I know what I would say on that. Would you, if someone calls you and you're out and about with your family, and it's a lead, do you text them, or you just wait to call them later?
It
Or what do
depends
you
if
do?
you've ever talked to him or not, Gabriella. So if I was calling for the first time, a lot of times I don't send any texts until I've called through them like at least like 5 different days, like specifically these ethos ones. So if I miss the call, I would just try to call them back. And then when they answer, I could either like, hey Gabriella, sorry for the phone tag. This is just David with ethos. I was getting back to about the life. And I just go into like it was normal at that point. But you may at least make a note that they had called. If you've already talked to them and stuff before, sure, yeah, I certainly could text them then.
Cool. All right, y'all. We'll keep everybody updated on next week's call. We might even start sending them out as a text message, or we'll just keep posting in the Telegram group for it, and we'll come up with the topic and all that good stuff. And if you guys got questions in the meantime, reach out to me, you can reach out to David, reach out to whoever you're working with, and because they can, odds are good they can help you with some of this stuff as well. You know what I mean? And if you're not already on the course, get on the course, go through that, because that'll give you a really good idea of just the process and next steps and things to watch out for, and a lot of those basics. So appreciate y'all. And David, if there's anything you want to add, go for it. Otherwise, we'll shut her down.
See you, everyone. Have a good week.
Cool.